Today it's a special edition of Just Local as we are out on location in Droitwich Spa and we're going to be on the health corridor towpath. We're with Canal and River Trust. We've got Ian and Shaun from the CRT and we're going to have a little wander and talk you through what the project was all about and what the benefits are of having this project now in Droitwich Spa. So Sophie's going to join us. We're going to try and walk you along the towpath as we go. So if you are listening, maybe go to our YouTube channel so you can actually watch this or onto our social media pages. So this was a big project. Myself, I'm the chairman of the Droitwich Spa Place Board and I had a little bit of involvement, but it was between Wychhaven and CRT to get this health corridor in place. And what a fantastic asset we now have. In total, it's about 4.2 kilometres. It's a complete revamp of what was here before, because anyone who lives in Droitwich would have known, very muddy, lots of puddles, and it wasn't that safe to kind of walk on. So we'll show you some clips as we go today on what's been done to the path. But Ian, you're from CRT. Could you just tell the listener what your role is with the CRT and your involvement with this as well?
So yeah, good morning. Hi, I'm Ian Lane, Head of Operational Partnerships and Fundraising for the Canal and River Trust. And I cover the West Midlands geography. So the Canal and River Trust, we are a charity. We look after 2,000 miles of canal and river across England and Wales. So we've got an absolutely fantastic job in protecting these wonderful assets that were sort of brought in the Industrial Revolution to move trade around the country and then further afield. And canals over the years have had a real renaissance. They've sort of had that peak of industry. Then when with the modern transport, the railways, the roads, obviously canals went into decline. So during the 50s, many of our navigations were silted up, abandoned, built around and almost lost. And I think more recently we've seen that resurgence in canals being reinvented, and the benefits they now bring in a whole range of things which we'll probably talk around today is phenomenal. And this project is an absolutely brilliant showcase of really the benefit that it can bring. Because I think our thanks have to go to you, Matt, because I think our conversation started 2 years ago about people proactively wanting to see the towpath being improved to improve use. Because I think one of the challenges we face as a charity is we have our sort of government budget and our income from boating and property, but it's not enough to maintain what we need to maintain it and keep the navigation and waterways safe. And towpath works is something that the trust can't invest in, so it is reliant on external funding to do it. And very often that's us proactively saying to funders, we need to do this, we need to do that. So having a group and Wychhaven come to us and say, we want to do this, it's brilliant. And I think, coming to see, especially this stretch for the first time, what a wow, really, isn't
definitely.
it?
I mean, we've seen a biker come past, we've just seen a lady running, and some of the comments and the feedback we've been receiving since this towpath's been done, those that haven't been here yet, either at this section or any section, you will see a massive difference, because where the roots used to come across, where the puddles used to be, it's now a nice flat path. It's got edging. It's really kind of suitable for, I know it's not really endorsed to be for cycling, but people can ride on it quite easily, and running and walking and pushing pushchairs, and actually people who are in wheelchairs as well. It just makes it so much more accessible now.
Absolutely.
You are right. I know that when we spoke to Wychhaven for the first time about what we wanted to do and to bring in this health corridor, it was a massive tick in their box as well. Probably an idea they hadn't heard of or thought of before, because sometimes they're looking at high streets and they're looking at the real kind of infrastructure setups. But with this idea, it was like pushing on an open door. And obviously, like you said, CRT would have loved to have done this if they could, but the funding's just whisked away, really, hasn't it? It's quite hard.
It is, and I think the trust is here. So we sort of bring so many benefits to the country. We're here to support climate change adaptation, renewable energy, and all of those other things. But one of the biggest benefits of your canal corridor is your mental health and wellbeing.
Sure.
And we've been trying to push at it for many years to say, come and use your free local canal. The trouble is, it's very often hid behind a wall, or the access is not very good, or the wayfinding isn't getting very good. So people don't know it's here.
Yeah, true. So
very often, I think, 54% of the West Midlands population live within a kilometre of a canal.
Interesting.
But only a very small proportion of that sort of community will use it.
Yep.
As I say, whether it's an awareness or a perception.
Yep.
And here we're really fortunate that we don't have some of the inner city challenges of, that place has. This is light, this is open, and you're great in the middle of. You could be in the middle of anywhere. Actually.
It's very true what you're saying, though, because when we first put a couple of pictures out and Wychhaven announced that it was now officially open, a lot of the questions that came in was, how do I get access to that? Where do we go for that? So we are going to show you a couple of areas today. We've got Shaun with us because I met Shaun a couple of weeks ago. Shaun can talk you through his title in a moment, but when you do something like this, you take away what was a muddy path and you put in something, you have to be very careful about the ecology and what's going to happen to the animals around. So Shaun, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit before we get to Coney Meadow reed bed about your involvement with the project as well.
Okay, no problem. I'm Shaun, I'm an ecologist for the Canal and River Trust. I cover the West Midlands region and I oversee habitat improvements and safeguarding various species, maintaining biodiversity as well.
Got you. And obviously when you're making changes to habitats and cutting back hedges and stuff like that, there's obviously a lot of careful concerns about what's going to be happening. So were you involved with the project? Have you been kind of on site as they've been working as well?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, one of the big habitat, I suppose, positives we've got here is the hedgerow to that side and the reed beds to that side, the reed fringes, because they're both important habitats for various bird species, amphibians, reptiles and small mammals, not to mention the invertebrates.
Got you. So Shaun will dazzle you with all of the different animals that have been and seen already at Coney Meadow reed bed. Just to explain what that part of the project was. So when we first walked this a couple of years ago, Witchaven and CRT, we were kind of just discussing with the ecologists back then kind of how it had all worked. Now, one of the things that happened when Coney reed bed was built was there'd been a dredging done further up the Droitwich Canal, back towards I think it was up towards the rugby club, is that right? Where they'd done the dredging and they basically removed some reeds. So they brought in Coney Meadow reed bed to essentially replace that. So that's the biodiversity
yes.
net gain, wasn't it? And at the beginning, I think that reed bed wasn't really doing its job. Is that right?
It had dried out a bit. Natural succession had meant that the reeds had grown. Also, a number of willow trees had grown. The soil there had dried out, and where there used to be a series of ponds and standing water, it was essentially just a field with reed beds in.
Right.
So the area that's been regenerated is between 30 and 36,000 square metres, linear measurement about 300 metres.
Wow.
And that's sort of more than compensated for any of the reed fringe that was lost from the canal.
Got you. And Ian, you've got a big team, but the team is made up of a lot of volunteers, isn't it? So
yes,
the other point I wanted to make with today's podcast episode is just in case anyone wants to get involved themselves, how they can support this health corridor really, or yourselves with the Canal and Rivers Trust.
Absolutely. I think, as we talked about earlier, our limited resources, we are so reliant on the support of communities and volunteers to take that local ownership. I think in the West Midlands we've got 14,000 volunteers, so that's 10 volunteers for every member of staff. So, that just sort of gives you a scale of the support we need. And I think projects like this, they are so important, but the ongoing maintenance is really important as well. Again, that's something we can't always do to the standard that is needed, but local ownership, local support to come and help us do that is absolutely brilliant. And I think the beauty about the trust is we do a bit of everything. So, people can get involved to volunteer, whether that's to help us maintain the locks and the bridges or the vegetation and the towpath. So there's a different opportunity for people to come and support us in however they wish. Our website, www.canalrivertrust.org.uk, will signpost people to how they can help volunteer and support us. So,
fantastic.
The opportunities are there, and we have a local operational team who will sign them up and then hopefully match up people's skills and ambitions.
Fab. We're going to leave it there. We're going to walk you down to Coney Meadow reed bed and we'll show you some shots as we go. So we're going to give Sophie a bit of a rest. She's just been, if you're watching this, you'll see that she's been going backwards for us to be able to walk forwards into the camera shot. But you'll have to look at the backs and the logos and the branding, as you can see on the gentleman's coats now. But Ian, this is the first time you've walked this stretch, haven't you? The Ladywood Lock section up to St Michael's Church in Salwarpe. We've seen dog walkers, bikers, and a lady running through as well. It must be really good for you guys to see how much use it's getting. Oh,
it's absolutely fantastic. And as I said earlier, that we know that this is an underutilised asset that's free for people to use and they can really benefit from. And projects like this are just wonderful to see people coming to use it. And as I've just mentioned, that this time last year we probably wouldn't have been walking this without our wellies.
No, true.
So actually to be able to do it in light shoes is brilliant, and giving people the confidence that they have now got an all year round surface it helps ingrain it into daily lives.
Yep.
You know, so whereas you might, well, I'll run on the towpath for 2 weeks in the summer. No, you can do it, and I think the more people get into the habit of using it, it becomes sort of nature. And I think any perception or fears people have about safety, actually, the more people that are using it regularly,
Yep.
that's what
The safer it
self-polices
becomes,
it.
without doubt.
And I think people have just got to come and try it if you haven't.
I'm also really impressed with how it's kind of bedded in, because initially it was kind of being finalised in the top of the summer. There'd been no rain for a long time, and there was a little bit of negativity, if I'm honest with you, on social media. People were worried that it was just a loose gravel and it was like not very compact, and people were worried about you wouldn't be able to push a pushchair through it. But we really needed the rain, didn't we? I think that was probably part of the process.
Yeah.
And I guess this goes back, Shaun, to the ecology and trying to make sure that you're not just putting tarmac paths down everywhere, which obviously would be expensive and also probably not as good for the area.
Absolutely, tarmac paths tend to be impervious to water, so therefore you tend to get more runoff into the canal. The quicker that water goes into waterways, the more likely it is to flood. For that reason, therefore, if we have surfaces that promote water soaking into the ground, that delays it finding its way into the waterways, and therefore not only acts as a basic form of filtering it, it also delays flooding or prevents flooding, hopefully.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. And Ian, just let's go back to that point then. So in an ideal world now, we'd look for volunteers to help support this and maintain it going forward.
Yep.
What could be a role that a volunteer would play? What would be, you know, how many hours would they expect to do a month, or how does it tend to work?
To be fair, that works, you know, that will be dependent on the volunteers, what they want to commit to do. We have volunteers that can come and work within our teams, so they will come and do that core management that we will do. Or what we do like to have is like local community groups that almost self-manage themselves.
Okay.
They come under our agreement. You know, we agree what works they can do. So whether that's keeping the edges neat, you know, looking at the vegetation, helping with the reed management. So there's a variety of tasks, but there's lots of different ways we can do it depending on what people want to do and their appetite.
Fantastic. If we can just remind people of what that website was in case they didn't have a pen handy when they heard it for the first time.
Yeah, it's www.canalrivertrust.org.uk, and you'll be looking to sort of volunteer and support the West Midlands region.
Yeah. And this is your patch, isn't it?
Yeah,
so you'd be involved with the with the process.
You know, our patch, we go above Stoke, we go up to the Welsh border, you know, down to here. So we've got quite a big geography, so which is quite exciting because you've got all the urban grit and history, but you've got this rural beauty. So we've got such a great story, and I think, you know, this wellbeing corridor is a relatively short connecting point. But actually, if people carry on, you can travel across the country.
Oh, without doubt.
And I think that's what people still forget, that actually this is a great active travel route to get further afield.
Yep.
And I think, you know, you talk about the surface. I think it's about getting something that's fit for purpose. So this is perfect for here, but as you get into more inner cities, you want something a bit more durable, a bit more industrial.
Of course.
So
yeah, and that's right. I mean, if you started here at Ladywood Lock, you could carry on past Vines Park or through Vines Park, out the other side, up past the rugby club, continue up. You've got the Eagle and Sun. You can hang a left there, and then you can go out past Hanbury Hall, out towards Stoke Prior. You've got and actually towards Birmingham. I think that's. If you wanted to, you've got a very long distance you could travel, and then you catch the train back if you don't want to come back along the towpath. You could use all the different.
Well, this is it. We always say active travel is people having the choice to make, and we know that we won't be the choice for everybody's whole journey, but we could be. We want to be part of it. So if you're going to school and there's a little bit across your local park onto a canal, up another route, great. You know, but it's here. It needs to be ingrained in that local awareness and local knowledge, so people can make that choice.
Definitely, and this now does actually connect two little estates, to Droitwich High School, Westacre, and St Joseph's. Because if you live on the Ladywood estate or if you live on Chawson, there are two new bridges that are actually installed in the last couple of years. I think by yourselves and obviously local council as well. But that's made a difference of that kind of entry point onto the towpath. And you bang on, because kids wouldn't have been able to walk to school on a wet, muddy path before. The parents wouldn't have allowed it because it wouldn't have done anything for their school shoes. But now I've come out in white trainers to prove a point. You don't need to really worry about your footwear anymore on this. It's so easy to kind of tread, and I've been on it 3 or 4 times, never seen a puddle. So
it's great. And I think you mentioned in the schools, you know, we have a really good education programme, because we really see the benefit of getting young people, you know, understanding the benefit canals bring, connecting them with nature, and that whole history and learning about what's on their doorstep. So hopefully that will get into their daily lives, and they will continue to use it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the programs we've seen a real success is we have a Let's program. So we run specific activities to try to grow local engagement, to be that trigger for people to come down, and that could be kayaking. But one of the most impressive ones we've seen is a fishing program.
Okay.
So some of the young people that have come down, and to be fair, there's some really stories of great change. So we've had young people with autism and learning difficulties, and families are struggling to cope. They don't, what support have they got? And they've come down and they've took part in our Let's Fish programme, and they've seen a real change in that young person's life. And I think when we see those stories coming back from what people have been able to do based on what we've done, that makes it all worth it.
Oh,
and I think people's well-being to come and garden for us, do this vegetation, it helps with people's loneliness, and I say all of the mental health challenges that, more relevant than ever now.
They are. No, you're right. I think, I mean, it's interesting you said about using the waterway itself, because I think part of our plan and hope was this health corridor is obviously phase one, the towpath.
Yes.
But actually, you've got this amazing asset to our right as we're wandering that we haven't seen a boat go past yet. I would love to think that kayaks and bell boats, we've got Andy Train, who's a local expert, the school kids can come and use it a little bit more as well. And I was interested to hear, was it Henrietta, the lady that's your local
our regional director.
She called this kind of phase one or stage one when she announced it being open, which is really interesting and exciting to hear, because hopefully, the town can get behind it, Place Board can get behind it, Wychavon can get behind it, and obviously alongside CRT, we can try and use something else rather than just the towpath.
Absolutely.
Build on it.
Yeah, without boats, which is what canals were made for. The boats are that life and that colour. And I know when we came to the opening last week, we did see quite a few boats, that was wonderful to see. So the more that we can, the more that we can give people, the boaters, the confidence that actually there's a destination at the end of this, there's a place to go, there's facilities, or there's a town, because it really does help boost the local economy as well. People coming in, visiting the city, using the provisions there. So,
well, that's a little bit of the plan behind the Place Board. So the Place Board, for those of you who haven't heard of us before, we're a small group, and we're basically like an advisory panel to the Wychavon District Council. We don't have any power. We only suggest ideas, and we sometimes are consulted on ideas, but we're just there to support and kind of push for some of the things for the town, really. And this is a shining example. We've done the lights on the high street with the festoon lighting. We've done lighting in the path in the Lido Park and also Vines Park as well. And we've got some other little projects coming, but it's really nice to kind of almost like be a little bit of a linchpin between CRT, Wychavon, and ultimately you guys have done all the hard work. Obviously a contractor's been found by Wychavon at the same time, but all we needed to do was come forward with an idea, and then it was like, let's do it.
And I'll tell you what has been absolutely really exceptional through this project is the relationship between the Trust and Wychavon.
Yep.
Because the board, their project board, their project managers, Gemma, Jack,
yep.
And Ian, have been absolutely phenomenal to work with as well. And I think we've all understood, we've all got that common goal, and we actually all want the same thing. And it's been a real proper partnership.
Yep.
Very often projects happen in partnership, but it never quite feels like it. But this really has been, and it's been a pleasure to do it, to be honest.
Fantastic. Right, we will take you now to Coney Meadow Reedbed as we promised, and that'll be Shaun's time to shine, because this man knows everything. We've actually just had someone walk past, if you haven't started watching this yet, just had someone go past us with binoculars, so we dare say he's probably been to this viewing panel that we're about to head to. We haven't picked up on the cameras yet, but there's also some pointers, so if you are coming to this area for the first time and you're not sure how long it'll take you to get into Droitwich, or how long it'll take you to get to Ladywood Lock or Coney Meadow Reedbed, then there are some strategic signs placed along the journey. That was another great idea by Wychavon, obviously make use of this towpath, but also then show people how far it would take them to get to those locations, or how many minutes it will take them. And there's also a number of benches placed along the tracks as well, because not everyone's going to want to walk 4.2 kilometres without taking a rest. So those places have been strategically positioned as well, and we'll show you a couple of those on the journey. But we're just about to say hello to little doggy, and we'll catch you at Coney Meadow Reedbed. So this is quite an important intersection of the canal towpath, because up this path to my right, as you're watching, is St Michael's Church. So that is the village of Salwarpe. It's a very small village, but it has parking available on the bridge, and it's a really easy point to be able to get onto the towpath. There's actually a church graveyard that you come through, and they have given permission that if you do want to bring your bike onto the towpath, as long as you walk it through that churchyard, it is okay. So just so you are aware of that if you are planning to bring your bike down here. But it's also a very good point to point out those signs that I was mentioning. This tells you that the Churchfield Farm and Cafe's 20 minutes up that way, 1.5 kilometres, and if you're heading back in towards Droitwich and you want to go to Vines Park, it's 3.5 kilometres, and it takes roughly 45 minutes. The other thing to mention is that this is on the Diamond Jubilee Walk route. That's an 8-mile circular around Droitwich, and it takes in areas like Vines Park. The towpath itself takes you out back beyond Droitwich, round the corners and then back in. So that's another 8-mile walk if you wanted to do it, and 4.2 kilometres of it will be on this towpath, which is really, really nice. So we're going to walk down now to Coney Meadow Reed Bed. For the safety's sake, we're going to get Soph to follow us again, if that's okay, but stick with us because this is going to be Shaun's time to shine. He's going to tell you all about what you can see through this viewing panel. The gentleman that went past us earlier, that we said hello to, he actually had binoculars on. I'm not sure if you'll see that in the video, but he had binoculars on, and Shaun said that he's actually the local kind of bird expert. Isn't a chap called Dave, did you say?
Yes, Dave. If it's here, he'll know about it. He's the one to ask if you need any information on the wildlife at this site.
So there we are. Hopefully you have watched it. Rewind a little bit. It was probably in the last 5 minutes you would have seen him walk past us, and he had binoculars on. He's Dave, and he knows all about the birds and the wildlife here as well.
I think sort of, as Hentley, you mentioned about Hen saying this is stage one, I think the other things that we probably do need to consider in the future, and this is possibly volunteer tasks, are to upgrade some of the accesses as well.
Yes.
Because it's great having this, but actually some of the accesses that are a bit steeper like that one, that haven't, we haven't been able to do it in the project, those are perhaps the next stages of work that we can do. And those are perfect examples where we can use volunteers, we can use corporate groups to come and to have team days with us. So again, we have the ability to get works done, not always through our team. So that's something we can perhaps consider.
So your know-how could be supported by volunteers, because you are right, and I think anyone that comes here, certainly this time of the season, they'll almost be reminded of what the path used to be like. Coming down from St Michael's Church down to the towpath, it's a bit slippy.
Yes.
It is a bit slippy, so that might be a project that anyone who's been on this health corridor feels they have some free time, would like to put their hand up to volunteer and see that could be their first task, then perhaps obviously they go through that website as we discussed earlier on, and put their hand up, and we can get a little team together so that they can,
absolutely,
they can do it, because we're just going into autumn now. We've still got winter to come really, and that's going to go into next year, so if we can do anything soon, would be usable.
And I think anybody else that is coming to use it and see it, and over the coming months, if there are other things that people would like to see and be part of making that change, great, please do.
There was a bit of feedback from some of the boaters asking if there might be any chance for extra mooring. So I guess this is kind of the little pivot point that we can be between the public and obviously the towpath and Wychavon and CRT. But I think there are a few kind of requests and demands, or ideas at least, that we can investigate.
Yeah, I think mooring is always going to be difficult on this stretch of canal unless we get into the town, because obviously the reeds, the maintenance, the cost, the installation of it. But where there's no reed and there's a better bank, people can just moor up anyway with mooring pins.
Okay.
People can moor anywhere.
Yeah.
But obviously I agree that in the middle of town centres you want more formal moorings, and I think they're already there. But again, if there's specific locations, we can always look at it. I think they'd say the caveat is moorings are expensive, because you have to put a proper edge on.
Yeah.
Which might seem a short stretch, but you don't get a lot for your money.
Understood.
Understood.
Right, Shaun, over to you. So we are at the point where we can turn down to Coney Meadow. There's another access point, isn't there, further up as well?
Yeah, there's one.
And as you said, this is 300 metres. It goes all the way down.
Yeah.
Careful, so.
Linear measurement from that end to that end is around 300 metres, approximately 300 metres. However, if you take the area, it's over 30,000 square metres, which is a nice significant amount of reed bed, which is all too rare a habitat in this country in this day and age.
Mm-hmm. Right, shall we wander down? You can tell us a little bit about what's
problem.
going on. So look out for the owl. If you're wandering along this path and you want to know where, you've just got to go behind the owl, obviously signifying that there are many floras and faunas along here. And there's a bit more work to be done with this access, this viewing panel as well, isn't there? I think Gemma from Wychavon said that they've got plans to put some more descriptive images and tell people what they're going to be looking at, I think.
Yeah, information board as well to give a guide to some of the more common species here. You've got a meadow area down there where you've got various flowers growing, including orchids, so that's quite interesting as well. A pheasant there just breaking cover in front of us, and here's the viewing screen.
Well, let's Soph have a look through as well. So Shaun, can you just take us back through what's happened, obviously, to get to this point of having the meadow reed bed? It was done first, actually, wasn't it? It was one of the first jobs before the towpath was repaired. But what was done here?
It was, well, originally this was a farmer's field. It was a pure agricultural field, so not really, often described as an agricultural desert because there's not much value for wildlife other than just the greenery there.
Yeah.
So what happened, it was purchased from the farmer, and the water table was raised to allow it to flood. Reeds were planted and allowed to grow further in there, so we had a nice established reed bed. But over time, that dried out gradually. The natural process of succession, willow trees became established there, so the drying out process meant there was no longer any standing water there. So what happened was the work done by the contractors more recently, they established scrapes which allowed sort of depth of about that much of standing water, and also excavated several ponds there, and it's improved the habitat no end for a number of species.
And we should give a shout out to that contractor that's been involved, because we haven't mentioned them yet, but can you remind us who?
R&C Williams were the contractor that managed the towpath works, and was it Ebbsford who?
It was Rothans who did that one there, yes.
Rothans, yeah.
Did a very good job as well,
Yeah.
very obliging, and they followed my instructions to the word to excavate the pond, so that really helps when that happens.
That always helps. And so now, what are we starting to see happen here now? What's the change ever since that's taken place?
Because we've got a nice amount of standing water. The first thing I noticed early on in the year, it was the end of February, was frogs starting to spawn in the. There were still tracks left by the excavator in the scrapes that we'd dug out, but there were masses of frog spawn amongst there. And you've got toads here as well. You've got great crested newts and smooth newts breed in those ponds as well. And not that I've seen them yet, but grass snakes also are found in this area, and slow worms as well.
Amazing.
Not just the reptiles, there's a number of bird species found here, and two particular rarities that have been recorded here, according to Dave, who we mentioned earlier.
Yep.
Are bittern have been recorded here, and also a marsh harrier, so they're quite important species in this area.
Amazing. And I remember the story that you said the other day about a beaver, a local potential sighting of a beaver, or you spotted a tree that had obviously been...
Yes, there was a beaver moved through here, possibly along the canal, but also it went into the meadow because we found footprints there, and it moved through Droitwich, and the other end of Droitwich there was an amazing tree. It looked like something out of a cartoon that had been gnawed by a beaver, so that's a spectacle if you get a chance to see that, just the other side of Droitwich.
Fantastic, fantastic. I mean, it really is. It's a really positive project, and you've got to come and see it for yourself. We can't just make you watch a show about this and listen to it on a podcast. You've got to come down to see it. Massive thanks to Canal and Rivers Trust, Witchhaven, Place Board members. It's been a fantastic project. We're in the autumn months now, and it's really lovely. It's really usable. Come out and stretch your legs. Come and see through the viewing panel what you can see in Coney Meadow reed bed, and leave the car at home. Walk now. You don't need a car anymore. Thank you both to Ian and to Shaun.
No problem.
This is the final part of this episode. Look out for the next Just Local, and we look forward to bringing you more in the future.